Dude, that looks so awesome. Welcome back to Faster and Louder. This episode, it really covers a lot. There's a lot of issues with wiring happening. There's issues with the leaf springs. There's just a lot of issues. A lot of things were happening. But you're going to see how a lot of this kind of gets resolved. It just took a lot of time. There's a pretty decent gap between part 5 and part 4. And you're about to find out why. Before this episode starts, make sure you guys subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. Yeah, just thank you.
Randy here with Faster and Louder. Here at the Faster and Louder shop working on the Javelin. Dan is out buying some fuses for this thing because we're blowing fuses today. So we're continuing on to fix the electrical problems. We were popping some fuse up front. We were checking out the rear lights, or the reverse lights, whatever you want to call them according to the diagram. We popped these babies out. This is one that I redid. So far our theory is that like the manufacturer had done these wrong, so the white is the ground and the black is the positive, which, you know, that's completely opposite to anything ever. So here's the one that I didn't do. Currently the black is to the black, which is the ground to the positive. Doesn't really make any sense, so I'm about to cut these ones and then redo it. Just having a little fun with this weird crimping tool that I've never used before.
We started trying to figure out what was going on with the turn signals. We did find out that the sockets for the reverse lights were wired like backwards basically. The black, which you'd think would be ground, was actually the feed wire for some reason. And then the white was the ground. I've never seen that before. But anyways, we got that part figured out, and it's still doing the same exact thing. I'm actually blowing a fuse every single time I connect the battery. As soon as I connect the battery, the fuse blows, and I still haven't figured it out. I just don't want to buy a probe for like $200 to use it one time. So that's pretty much what's holding me up right now, I guess. Randy is over here helping me out. We get the shifter and console out of the way, so I'll be able to paint the rest of the console, or the dash now. And now we're working on getting the shocks out of the back so we can start making some progress with the axle, hopefully. Ivan wasn't able to make it because he got in trouble with his woman, so he's at home. And yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how to do a lot of this stuff. Like, Ivan took off these brackets that attach to the leaf springs, and I wasn't really there to see what he was doing exactly, so yeah, that'll be fun to figure out. But anyways, let's just get into this here. Is it good? Yeah. So that's good. I'm having Randy hold on to the shock on the bottom side so I can actually get this out. It was just spinning there since it's not attached to anything. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay, so Randy and I took some parts off. We actually got the shocks off pretty easily, and then we took some of the parts, like the underbody structural parts, and we painted them up and everything. So we're sitting here drying right now. We're basically just getting the shocks roughly in place, and then yeah, we'll be good to go. Got the Calvert racing shocks, 9-way adjustable. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Well, we're gonna kind of have to look at everything. Neither one of us have really done anything like this exactly, so we're gonna have to figure out the order of getting the leaf springs in with the Calvert traction bars and all that good stuff too. So we'll get it figured out, maybe. Okay, Randy's over here trying to figure out all the Calvert stuff. We're kind of just going over the instructions here and trying to make sense of it. There's some of the stuff I'm gonna have to be sandblasting. I need to like clean it up and get it looking nice, paint it before we can start putting everything back together. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. But he's basically just setting things out, making sense of it, laying it out the way it's supposed to be. certain things are just slightly different for this setup too, because this is actually designed for like Fairlanes and Galaxies and stuff, which a lot of suspension on Javelins I'm finding is actually very similar to Galaxies in particular. I know that you can actually get coilovers from like, what's that big coilover company, QA1? You can get QA1 coilovers for the front that is from a Galaxy. I think you gotta do some minimal modifications, but it's like very, very close. It seems like somebody in the design team had a Galaxy and they're like, let's just do this but slightly different so they can't say that we ripped them off. Anyways, I'm gonna let Randy do his thing and I'm gonna continue cleaning up some parts and getting them painted. I painted some of the stuff that we're gonna need for the leaf springs here, the shackles. I'm not sure if that's the technical correct term for those, but got those, and the U-bolts painted up. I media blasted them and painted them, so they're actually in pretty nice shape. Randy got most of this figured out over here. Got the leaf spring kind of like situated with the calverts, so those look, or Caltrex I should say. So those are looking good. He's doing the same over here now, just trying to make sure everything's mostly pieced together, at least makes sense. I need to go see if I can find like one of those like flat wrenches, because we can't actually tighten, where is it at? We need to actually get this tight enough so that the bushing is equal with the washer here. So in order to do that, you gotta have a tiny little wrench that actually fits in here on this fitting, and before you put this up in the car, because there's no way to do it otherwise, and this will just keep spinning. So yeah, I'm gonna go to the AutoZone or parts store and see if they got something over there. So all right, I'll be right back. Randy and I previously got started on putting things back together for the rear end of the car. I was trying to document the whole thing as well as I could when Randy came over last time, but I was really upset because I was having more problems with the electrical system in the car. Basically what was going on was I was still blowing the same fuse that I thought that I fixed in the second part of the electrical issues that I was having in that video, if you check that out. So I was working on that some more, couldn't really get things figured out. It turns out that, well, let me see if I can show you. So if you look at this here, I put some washers on the front of this. This is mainly just to protect the actual fuse board itself. But originally there's like a plastic piece that goes between the whole metal part of this actual fuse panel and the actual brass fitting that goes through these smaller holes where you actually mount it. So essentially it's impossible for the screw or the brass fitting to ground to this metal plating on the back. Well, the brass fitting didn't have plastic underneath the actual, this side of it here, and that's closest to the fuse that kept blowing over and over again. So I fixed that, and this fuse stopped blowing, and I was able to get the turn signals and everything working again. But then I got a bad connection here on this terminal, and I think that there's like a wire. I'm not even sure how these are really wired specifically, but there's like a bad ground or something, and it kept pulling this stoplight terminal back, and it had a bad connection. So now I have a new fuse panel on the way, a new fuse panel on the way, and it has the insulator plate and all that stuff still on there. So anyhow, what I'm trying to say is I got a new one coming in. That should fix basically all the problems. All the lights should work at that point. Brake lights, hazards, turn signals, headlights, everything. So should be good on that. So I'm waiting on that part now. That should be coming in the mail hopefully within the next week or so. And then today I was gonna have Randy come over to help me actually get the axle into the car. If you didn't see my little part in, I believe it's part 4 of the road to roadworthiness, I actually talked about kind of cleaning this up and getting it painted and everything. So that's what I've already done. The shop, obviously, the shop was AZ Differential Specialists, and they did the one-piece axles. They did the 373 gears that are upgraded from 315s, and they rebuilt the entire limited slip, the whole clutch pack thing. So that's all good, great shape. Hopefully nothing to worry about. I already did the brakes also. The drums are sitting right here. So this should be pretty much ready to go back in. The other thing that Randy and I did while he was here is we got the old shocks out, put in the Calvert 9-way adjustable shocks. So those are in place, just waiting to be attached to the Calvert mono leaf springs and the Caltrax. So the Caltrax are sitting over there. There was a small issue that I was concerned about, which was side-to-side play on the pin that goes through the actual body. And it turns out that you want a little bit of play. You just don't really want a lot of play on the leaf spring itself, which seems to be okay in my situation. It's just the actual bracket for the front pivot. It's going side to side just a little bit. And I think it's gonna be okay. We're gonna throw it all together and just assume that it's good. We have everything pretty much pieced together here, just mocked up at least. And then I painted the shackles and U-bolts and everything. I media blasted them, so they should all be good. I believe I have all the hardware that I'm going to need, so that should be all good also. And yeah, it's just a matter of, I think what we're gonna do is put the leaf springs on, and then that's gonna be there ready to take on the actual weight of the axle. So we're gonna come over and basically manhandle the axle on top of the leaf spring. Probably just kind of like put it over on this side, slide it over, and then manhandle the other side so it's at least balancing on the leaf springs. And then we're gonna kind of like spin it, get it where we need everything, start bolting it down, and then attaching the shocks, all that good stuff. There's a few other smaller things that need to be done with the driveline. This drive shaft has been sitting here forever. I believe I actually need to take this apart and get some new U-joints and everything just to have it in there. Obviously you don't want to like media blast this bare metal part right here, or I think that I'm not sure if there's a bearing in there or what. I'm not very well versed on drive shafts, but I guess I will be pretty soon. But anyways, that whole thing's gonna get media blasted too, so it'll look nicer. And since Randy's not here to help me with that axle, I'm gonna try to get a hold of him, but if I can't, or if he's gonna be a while, I'm gonna continue with some wiring here. I needed to actually lengthen some of the wiring here on this to make it so it reaches down far enough to get into the under dash or engine bay area. So I'm gonna do that. And then if I still have time left over, I have that MSD box in the box over here, and I need to, well, actually it's still mounted, but I have the wiring for the MSD box over here. And I need to do the same thing for some of those wires too. I need to kind of just lengthen it and make it so it can actually reach the battery and whatnot. So that's gonna be on my list of stuff to do also. Oh, and I need to mask off a lot of stuff and try to paint that lower dash section. That's gonna be kind of tricky. I'm not really sure the best way to do this just yet, but we'll get there. I'm probably gonna take off that ashtray door completely and just paint that separately out of the car, and then just cover the controls with some tape or aluminum foil or the combination of the two, and just kind of cover up everything else with blankets or aluminum foil, and just try not to get overspray on anything. But I don't really want to take this out because there's some fragile stuff in there, especially for the AC, that's really hard to find, and I just don't want to be the one that breaks it. So I'm going to leave that to the guys who actually know their stuff with that, and that's going to be later. All right, Randy's here. Say hi, Randy. Hi. He's here. I already talked about what we're going to be doing today. I did just kind of mock up the gauges finally. I extended all those wires like I was talking about, so now they're probably way too long, but it's roughly in here. I still need to mount everything at the top here, but I'm gonna wait until the rest of this kind of goes back together. I just wanted to get those in before I put the rest of it back in, because it's basically impossible to feed the wires down to the under dash area unless you have all this apart, or at least the dash pad off. So that's all good now. Now we need to figure out what we're gonna do to actually move the axle to the back. I think we're just gonna put it on the jack, keep it nice and low, and then if we have to, we'll use some ratchet straps or something to like keep it steady as we lift it up or something. I don't know. we'll figure it out. But first of all, I'm probably gonna need to clean up some stuff so I can actually get a clear path to the back of the car. Randy and I were successful in getting everything up here. He kind of just balanced it as I lifted it up, and then I got the rear shackles on there, so that should be good. Then we lifted it up just a little bit so we could kind of get everything where we needed it for the shocks. So we're working on getting the shocks all the way mounted. Then we're gonna get the brake lines back on, and a couple other things I'm probably forgetting. And then that's pretty much it. We can put the wheels back on and get it back on the ground. Okay, we got everything down on the ground, and it looks like I have the wrong parts or something. Not really sure what's going on. As you can see, the wheel is way forward in the wheel well. There is a locator that is on the leaf spring, and there's a locator that's on the, well, I mean, there's a pin hole on the actual pads of the axle. So that's lined up with everything else on the leaf springs and all that stuff. So I'm not entirely sure why it would be like this, apart from either having the wrong leaf springs or having them in completely backwards. But the small, let's see, small end is in the back and big end is in the front, which should be correct. Not really sure, but there's like not even a finger worth of gap between the tire and the wheel well. And these are 28-inch tall tires, so they will have less room than you typically would. But I mean, to have like 4 inches on one side and then like a quarter of an inch on the other side seems like there's something not right. So I guess that's the next thing that I get to figure out. I do know that the axle did sit forward in the car a little bit before, but this is like a lot more. So guess that's the next thing, next mystery to solve. Ooh, I was just getting done with another day of little stuff, just trying to make a little progress here and there. I'm waiting on a couple things. I'm waiting on the new fuse panel, the new fuse panel. I'm not really sure when that's going to be coming in, so I don't know what's going on with that just yet. But once that's in, I can start doing a little bit more of the gauges and that type of thing. But anyways, while I was at it, I got in here and I cleverly masked some things off to get that last piece down there, that middle lower console piece. So I got that sprayed, looks a lot better. I previously put the gauges in here just to place them and get the wires fed through. Probably already showed that. The last thing that I was really not very happy about was the leaf spring and Caltrack situation here. Well, it turns out that I have the wrong springs. Now, I vividly remember looking at the parts numbers on Calvert's website thinking I need to get specifically the 71 through 74 Javelin springs because they make a set that's for 68 to 70 Javelins, and then they do 71 to 74, which is the 2 generations of Javelin. So it makes perfect sense. Well, I had to go back and look and see what I actually ordered off of Jegs. It drop ships from Calvert, but I ordered from Jegs, and it said that I ordered the 68 through 70. But on Jegs' website, it says 68 through 74. So it's kind of a mistake on their part. I should have done my due diligence and double checked everything. And now I have to pay for it, basically. Thankfully, I don't have to actually pay for the springs themselves. They are going to take them as a return, and they're going to exchange it, and they're going to do me good by getting me the correct spring. So I'm thankful that Jegs did that for me. So thank you, Jegs. The way that I was able to figure this out, though, was by taking measurements of the Calvert springs and the actual factory springs. And it turns out the rear part of it, it's supposed to be like 29.5, and it's like 31 inches on the Calverts that I got. We basically did a comparison, and the ones that are supposed to be on here measure basically exactly what I got for the factory springs, and the measurements that I got from the Calverts here match perfectly with the 68 and 70. So I figured that out with the Calvert guy. Now I should be getting the new one. So I'm gonna have to wait though. Hopefully Randy can help me this weekend getting everything back off, getting all the bushings out that I need and all that stuff, and then getting them shipped out and then waiting for the new ones to come in. So it's gonna be at least a couple more weeks before I can actually get the correct leaf springs on, unfortunately. So kind of bummed out about that, but there's a lot of other progress still being made. The transmission is still being rebuilt over with Ivan. He texted me yesterday about valve body settings, so that's a good sign. Beyond the things that I already talked about, I still need to figure out the fuel lines from the fuel pump, so I may do that while I'm waiting for these other pieces to come in. I'm really trying not to spread myself too thin with all these different projects on here because there's a million things that are going on at the same time. Like I don't even have the time to list off all the separate little things, but a lot of them are like 2 or 3 little things that are kind of like combined into one mega project, and that's just the state of things. That's just the way it's gonna be. So as soon as that panel gets in here though, all the basic electrical stuff will be pretty much done, you know, not considering smaller light bulbs and that type of thing, but generally speaking, everything that I need for this to be roadworthy will be functional. I started taking everything apart again. I haven't had as much time as usual to work on the car, but it only took me about 20 minutes to get everything loosened again. So I took the U-bolts back off. I got the shocks disconnected on each side. I zip tied the brake lines up here and out of the way a little bit once again. And everything here, the cowl tracks are disconnected there. Basically, all I need to do at this point is I'm waiting for Randy to get here so he can kind of steady the axle for me like he was doing last time. And we'll basically just pop down the rear shackles. And, well, it doesn't really matter so much. We just need to get rid of the leaf springs. I guess that's pretty much the easiest and safest way to do that I've figured out so far. But we're going to get these leaf springs out of here. I'm going to get them returned. I'm just glad that Jegs was willing to like make everything right again. So while it was their fault that the description was incorrect, it was nice that they were willing to, you know, take them back on their own dime and give me the correct leaf spring. So happy about that. Apart from all this stuff going on here, I mean, really a lot of this is pretty much the same place I left off before. I'm still waiting for that fuse panel. It's only been a week. I'm just impatient. So that should be getting here any day now. Hopefully I'll be able to do that within the next few days here when I get some time. And then, yeah, I gotta figure out wiring still for this. So probably tomorrow I'm just gonna do some more research on what is really gonna be necessary for that. If I can get the lights like confirmed good again, I think I'm gonna go ahead and start putting fenders back on and all that. Most of this stuff is done here in the front, so I'm kind of at a point where I just want to kind of start reassembling stuff, especially while I'm waiting for the transmission. Some of the door hinge stuff I don't have over here still. It's been really hard in the past month or so to actually get everything coordinated to where everybody can come over at the same time. Everybody's just busy, you know. Life happens. Definitely, you know, it's a thing. Life happens. We're kind of just trying to get things done where we can. Randy and I don't think it's going to take us very long to drop the axle though. And then once we do that, maybe we'll kind of move on towards some of the other stuff that needs to be done. I don't even really know. I didn't really have a plan for that far. It's been another late night here at the shop. Stuff everywhere, so just ignore it. I'm very tired. It's about 11 o'clock, which is really late for me these days. But today I was able to prep everything, paint the seat entirely, so that's good to go. Just gotta take the tape off of it and all that. Of course, I'm gonna let it dry first. And then my paint stand slash garbage can is what I used for the seat racks, or seat, this is what I used for the seat sliders. And yeah, may have had a little bit too much paint fumes. Can't really think correctly right now. Whew. Anyways, yeah, I got those sliders done, and they look pretty good. I actually did it a little bit differently this time, so I had way less trouble with it. There was a lot less struggling going on. Last time I brought the sliders to a different place before I even had my media blasting cabinet and all that, and I had them blast it when there's still dirt and rust and all that stuff on there, and it really just made it really difficult to break them free again. So this time I broke everything free, got it as clean as I could, then I media blasted it and then got it clean again, and it was actually a lot easier that way. So I got everything as clean as I reasonably could, and then I actually greased it up and everything, and then painted it. So that way the paint won't actually stick to the parts that I want greased. So I did this way smarter this time. But the passenger seat should be ready to go in basically tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna actually have time to come here tomorrow, but it'll be ready to go in the next time I come here. As for the headers, I looked into getting a stepped drill bit so I could actually drill the O2 sensor bung. And turns out those are pretty expensive, especially the kind that can do up to 15/16, which is recommended by the instructions, which I think is pretty weird. But everything else is pretty much ready to go on this. So once this is drilled and the bung is welded on, I can ceramic coat these headers. And my plan for the headers is I have gold, which I've already used before on the car, and it looks like this, which is kind of like a weird, it's a very pale gold. So my plan is to actually mix some of the black that I have, some of the black Cerakote, and just kind of like bring the value of the gold down just a little bit. Like, not that value, not, you know what I mean. Gonna make the gold darker, make it look more rich, more gold-like. So that's the plan with that. Anywho, I'm kind of rambling right now. I have obviously 8,000 different projects going on. This is probably the messiest this garage has ever been. I have the seat, sliders, headers, boxes, electrical stuff is torn apart over here, doors over here, all the extra parts are sitting over there, rear ends basically like half disassembled. Things are kind of crazy around here right now. My plan is with this, now that I've been kind of like looking into it a little bit, is to run all the gauges as a series, so it's just all three come on with the same power source. I don't know how to do that just yet. So that's going to be interesting. I think I'm just going to have to take like all the power stuff and then like solder them into like one main power wire that goes to the fuse board, but I don't know. I'll figure that part out later. It stresses me out just thinking about it. It's been about 2 or 3 days of just trying to get random stuff done. I've been like trying to catch up on a lot of those smaller things that I've been putting off, and just trying to keep making progress while I'm waiting for the parts that I really need. So we took this off probably about a couple months ago. This is the lower hinge that actually goes on the door side on the driver door. And I just media blasted this and painted this really quick. I was trying to figure out how this mounts on here. Don't know if this is correct, but it is wired properly and it will stay. I just don't know if it's in the way of anything right now, so probably just gonna let that be. I just kind of wanted to feel that out and see, you know, if everything worked the way that it's supposed to. It looks like that's good, so happy about that. The biggest thing that I did though is I got this seat completely painted. I got the sliders on it, I got the adapters and all that stuff on there, so when it's ready to go in, this will literally just be like ready to drop in. That's my big pile of interior parts that I have completed. As far as painting and all that goes, I also remembered that I took this off like really early on. This is the whole front bumper support and all that stuff. So I have like that Seafoam Deep Creep stuff just sitting on it. I'm gonna let it kind of do its thing, and then I'm gonna try to take this apart. I don't really know where the bumper is bent, but I do know it's bent. I haven't really looked at it for a long time. But I'm gonna take the bumper off. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Maybe I'll just paint it or something so it's less noticeable that it's messed up. I don't really have the like $400 or whatever it is for reproduction bumper right now. So that's just gonna have to wait. But I would like to get these support beams media blasted and painted. I could at least make that look nice. This is the rest of the dash stuff that is waiting to get put back in. I can't remember if I showed this already or not, but I did clean these up. This is like the transmission plate stuff. I don't know what's actually called. This is all ready to go. I think I already showed that too. I got a lot of garbage here. It's pretty cool. I think that's pretty much it for the small stuff. So we're just gonna wait for the fuse panel to get in and the leaf springs. And once I get those two things done, then it's on to a million other things, like putting the interior back together. This has been the entire project. It's been like 20 different tiny projects all going on at the same time. It's always 100 degrees in the shop. I'm always sweating and I'm always angry. And we're getting there, slowly but surely. I'm just picking away at it, little tiny things. It all matters in the end. These are all things that had to get done in order to get this thing roadworthy. So I feel good about it. This is the new list. Some of these things are the same, a lot of it's different. Things are happening. I'm gonna wait for Ivan and Randy to get here today. Hopefully we can get a lot of this wiring stuff kind of done. So my goal today really is to get as much of the wiring done as possible, to the point where when I do get the fuse panel, I can just hook stuff up and then I'm pretty much done. I do need some guidance though, so I'm glad Ivan's gonna be here to help me with some of the wiring specifics, because as you've probably seen in the past 2 or 3 videos where I'm running into electrical problems, I'm just learning this stuff as I go. I have little to no experience with any of this stuff. So this is all brand new to me. This is a whole new skill set for me. And I'm in it, man. I'm learning. All right, Randy and Ivan have arrived. I got about 20 minutes left to work here and I gotta leave, so that means they were late. Well, actually Randy wasn't that late.
Somebody else was late.
I only showed up 50 minutes late as usual.
Ivan left an hour after I said I was gonna be here, and take some 3 hours to get here, because he lives in a different country. So we went over that plan for the wiring here. I'm glad I got my COVID shot because Ivan's dying over here. But he's figuring out the wiring for the gauges. Seems to be doing a lot quicker than I probably would be. I'm trying to finish what Randy started, which is the MSD wiring. So we got it coming through the grommet, through the firewall there, and I'm trying to route it as best I can. I'm probably gonna end up making this better at some later point. I just want to keep it away from the headers right now. So I'm getting everything to the front here, and I'm gonna figure out some of the wiring here in just a second. And then Randy, here's his butt. Here's Randy's butt.
I was gotta get a butt shot of Randy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm double caked up.
He's taking the rear speakers out of the tray package. He's taking the speakers out, the old ones. They're nice and deteriorated. So he's getting those out. The plan is, it's kind of covered right now, but we're gonna try to put the unit in the actual compartment thing.
Unit.
Just can't say anything around these guys. So we're gonna put the unit, hashtag unit, right in the middle thing over here, and then Randy's basically gonna run speaker wires. I think we're just gonna go under the door sills.
Why don't you go under the carpet?
Because the carpet's glued down.
Well, who the hell glued the carpet down?
That's what you're supposed to do.
How are you gonna replace it when it...
Anyways, we're gonna get the speakers in, hopefully, and then we can at least get most of that wiring done. I don't think that the stereo is gonna be too complicated. It should be easier than most of the other stuff, at least.
And here's a YouTube poll. Has anybody seen a frickin' radio system dash area this rusted in a car that has not been in the water? Because allegedly this car was not in a lake or river or ocean.
But evidence seems to point otherwise. Yeah.
God.
It's a little crusty. I would say beyond, or apart from the outside, that's probably one of the rustiest parts of the car. Oh, there goes one of the speakers.
Hopefully. That's the front lid.
Alright, well, I'm going to get started on this MSD stuff and hopefully get it wired appropriately. Well, we got a lot done. There's a lot of wiring madness. It looks really crazy now.
Wiring does that.
Like, just taking apart the stereo stuff, you know, we got like a trunk full of boxes, assorted boxes and whatnot, and we're still trying to figure out. I mean, Randy pretty much got all the speaker wiring routed for the most part, and then I'll do kind of the finishing touches on that. I'm trying not to get anything too final just yet because I know I'm gonna have to move things around a lot, and I don't really know entirely how everything's gonna be in here permanently. But yeah, there's all the wiring. I even did the wiring for the gauges, got that all sorted out. I still gotta find a place for the ground and get that all situated. There's the module for the air-fuel ratio gauge. It's way back in there. Gotta get that mounted. We figured out how this needs to be wired for the fans, so that'll be one of the things I'll be doing next. The MSD stuff, I had Randy kind of route it through and got everything almost all the way plugged in until I realized I was using the wrong instructions. Ivan helped me realize that. There's a wire that actually goes to the distributor that need to be connected, and it was already pretty much full going through the tiny little hole that we made in the firewall, so I need to order a bigger drill bit for that so I can put a bigger grommet and fit all of the cables through there that need to fit, and then that'll be all connected. And I think, oh god, it's just, I don't even want to look at the inside of the car.
It was nice and neat.
Not really, but I mean, now it's like way worse. So next week we're going to duct tape drags. Obviously not in the Javelin, but we're gonna go and watch people. The last grind of the week. Get it there. We're gonna lose a shop. All right, guys, it's gonna work this time. I swear. That's what I'm talking about. Ah, finally. God. Well, as you can see, I finally have the taillights working, turn signals, hazards, brake lights. The headlights and front turn signals and all that stuff already work. Or I should say they still work. I don't know. I think there's actually kind of like a loose wire in there somewhere under the dash. So it would probably be smart to fix that at some point. But right now I'm just trying to verify that everything's working. So I'm not gonna dive too deep into that right now, but all the dash stuff is working. Basically now at this point, all I'm doing, and I'm not gonna talk too long because I have the battery still hooked up and everything, but I have all the wiring down here kind of somewhat figured out. And I can't remember if I showed these or not. I have what is called a chair terminal. Didn't know these existed, but this slides onto the existing terminal and then gives you two more little guys out of there. So I kind of figured that would probably be the neatest way I could possibly do this instead of like really hacking things and making it worse than it already is. So I'm gonna connect all my gauge stuff using those chair terminals, and then I should be pretty much good to go on that. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much done for tonight. Haven't been sleeping very much, got a little baby at home, so you can probably guess where I'm going with that. I really was thinking about ending the video after some of this basic wiring kind of got started, but I decided against that because I really want this episode to have a good, strong ending. We'll see how much we can get done. Just to kind of make sure we're all on the same level here. Right now, this AFR gauge or module is kind of just hanging here. I do have the replacement fuse panel, my new fuse panel, already up in there. So that's all set to go. You already saw that the lights were working and everything, but I kind of figured out that the fuse panel itself is okay. So there was really no reason for me to even change out the fuse panel. I just was under the impression that something was wrong with the fuse panel that was giving me a bad connection. I thought it was the actual terminal for the hazard lights. It turns out it's the actual wire leaving the terminal that kind of seems to have a bad connection. So I guess I have a replacement fuse panel, so that's never really a bad thing. It's just I didn't really need to get it in the first place. So bad on me, but whatever. So I have an extra fuse panel. The way that Ivan wired this up is actually what the hell? So the way that Ivan wired this up was actually pretty useful, pretty handy. There's 3 power wires and a ground from each gauge, regardless of how it's all wired or whatever. You're gonna have those 3 regardless. So what we decided to do was kind of put everything in a series. So you're gonna have all 3 wires for the 3 different gauges kind of coming into one, and then it's gonna be the same for the constant power, the switched ignition, and the headlight. So this is another thing too. For the headlight power, I decided to run constant for that. So the lights will be on all the time on the gauges, which doesn't really bother me very much. Yellow is 12 volt constant, red is 12 volt ignition switched, orange is the headlight switch source, which is, I'm just gonna make that a constant, and then black. So when Ivan did this whole thing, he kept them all the same. So each of those are here. So since I'm gonna be making 2 the constant, I'm not sure, I haven't decided whether I should make these separate or not. I think just for like the purpose of how much power I'm gonna be drawing from each circuit, I'm probably gonna put the constant sources on their own terminal, so that way it's not like a lot drawing off of one thing. So I'm gonna start doing that. As you can see, I have a lot of extra wire going here. I do have to kind of tuck up some of this stuff, and it looks ugly right now. That's because it is, but I'm gonna have to strip back some of that so I can actually put connectors on it and everything. I think I'm actually gonna leave a lot of that length if possible, just to kind of have like a slack loop for, you know, in case something gets broken or whatever, I can pull out some of that slack and I won't have to do a bunch of work to put on a new connector. So that's the plan, at least at this moment. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on that. You may have noticed in the past 0.65 seconds of that time lapse that I had the scissors. I was actually cutting the very end of these connectors because the shrink, whatever you want to call this, the shrink stuff actually covers the tip of it where you need to plug it in. So I had to kind of trim it back. And these don't really shrink very well. These are, I believe, 20 gauge wires. They're pretty thin, but these are supposed to work on 22 even. So I'm not really sure why these are not amazing. Well, I know why they're not amazing, because this costs like $8 on Amazon. So who we trying to fool here? Anyways, these are somewhat appropriate in size. So now the next part is using the chair terminals on the actual fuse panel, the way I was talking about. I also need to connect a ground to the body somewhere. All right, so I have everything connected to the fuse panel now. Everything should be good. We're gonna test it out and we're gonna see if this thing works. All right, so this is where they are. Got the key in the ignition. And that's in the on position. I should say I think that's a run position. Actually, that's the run position. Nice. Okay, cool. So let's see, turn it off. Okay, they work. Dude, that looks so awesome. Sweet. Okay, so yeah, I think that there's some adjustment to be made with the lights and everything. I gotta figure out, actually this one looks like it's not, I don't know if it's not lighting up properly or what. It looks like I might have an issue with some light here. I'm gonna pop this one out. I got the lights fixed or changed on all these, so they should somewhat match the actual dash here. Let's check that out. I mean, you can't really see these comparatively. Yeah, that's about all you get with the factory panels. Pretty dim. It'll definitely be a little bit brighter at night, I guess, but these will be far and beyond brighter. I guess that's kind of the bummer part of not wiring these to the headlight switch in a way that you can dim these, but I don't know. I'm gonna mess with these a little bit more because I think that there's some adjustments that you can make to this. I'm not entirely sure, but they're all there. They're wired up. That's the important thing. If I get annoyed with these, I can always switch this to LED setup or something if it isn't bright enough. I feel like sometimes it's brighter and sometimes it's not, so I'm not really sure what the deal is with that, but I'll get it sorted out. That's pretty low on the priority list right now. Oh god, oh, I just burnt my arm on this. The important thing is that these lights work, so sweet. Now that all the gauge stuff is pretty much done, I did tuck away some of the stuff. There's like the module for the AFR gauge. I kind of have it mocked up where I want it. I still have to do a lot of wire neatifying. Now I'm on to the MSD box stuff. So if you remember, the hole going through the firewall wasn't quite as big as I needed it to be. So I got myself a little Amazon drill bit here. It's a hole saw. Hopefully this will cut through okay. It's supposed to be for metal. I don't know. I don't think I've ever actually used a hole saw on metal before, if that tells you where I'm at on stuff like this. Okay, so that's not gonna work. The thing with this is I already drilled a hole through the firewall. It's supposed to have a drill bit in the middle for when you're actually trying to get the hole started, which helps keep you kind of guided. So I can't do that. I already have the hole. So if I had the drill bit in there, it'll keep it from going way off, but it's not gonna keep it centered enough to actually do what I want it to do. So that's a fail. $12, might as well just cut it on fire. I'm gonna have to find an actual drill bit that's an inch instead of a hole saw. So lesson learned, I guess. All right, so now that I have everything working on the fuse panel, at least for now, everything seems to be good. I started putting back the dashboard. Man, 70s malaise era is just something else, man. I don't know what to say about it, but it's especially bad when it's 50 years old. But I have most of it kind of sitting in here. There's some stuff that still needs to be kind of buttoned up, but that's pretty much it for the most part. There's the kick panels and whatnot, but I'm actually starting on the wiring for my stereo. I think that I already kind of talked about this a while back, but it's here, let me turn this around. This is the actual amplifier. So it's a MC900B, and it's kind of cool. It's a 4-channel Bluetooth amp. So basically what that means is it's Bluetooth only. There's no head unit for this actual system. So you kind of get in and you set up everything and you just play stuff off your phone. So you use like Spotify or Pandora, whatever you use, and that's pretty much it. You don't have to do anything to the dash. So I'm gonna keep my original radio. I'm just gonna let it chill there. I still have to put on a bunch of knobs and stuff like that. I just remembered. That was pretty much my main reason for doing this though, was I didn't want to do anything with the radio. I wanted to keep that kind of stock look as far as that goes. I mean, I've already kind of, you know, that's gone out the window, let's just say that. I still have to figure out a couple things for the sensors for the gauges. I believe that there's a sensor way down here on the side, probably can't see it. Just above the filter right there, there's a little fitting. I believe it's actually off the side of that, pointing towards the back of the car. So I'm gonna have to get to that, but I believe I'm gonna have to drain the oil. So that might wait a little bit. I'll probably do that right before we get ready to start the car. Taking a look here at the list of stuff, the fuel line still didn't get done because Ivan was actually helping me with the wiring for the gauges. So we're still kind of at the point, I mean, this is like half done, half done, half done. Dash is mostly back together at this point. We're like roughly halfway done through this list, just getting a lot of this random stuff done. Waiting for the leaf spring still. I think I'm gonna put the fenders and everything back on here pretty soon too. Before you finish watching this video, I have a special announcement. New t-shirt design. It's the Javelin. It's a piece of crap. It's the Shambler. This is a design that I made myself, and I'm just trying to get some extra money for projects on this channel. Want to keep making cool videos, guys. I can take whatever help you're willing to offer. So I have this available. If the store link isn't available just yet, it will be, and it will be in the description for this video. Thank you very much. Guys, we are getting closer and closer to completion, or at least getting this thing running. And I know it looks pretty much exactly the same, and it's pretty much looked like that for a good while now, but there's just so many small little projects that are not very obvious that are happening right now. You guys already know pretty much everything that's happening, and I'm actually going to be making a separate video for the sound system, I guess you could call it, that I'm putting in this car, so I won't really get into that too much, but I did want to show you really quick. Look at the difference. This is the old speaker. Just take note of how low profile it is and how small that magnet is, and then take a look at this guy. Huge magnet on it, comparatively speaking. I'm gonna have to figure out something to the door panels because that's gonna stick out quite a bit, but this will bolt directly to the plate that goes to the actual door. So that part is good. Randy is actually on his way. He's gonna be here very shortly. We had a huge big deal with the springs. I think that I already went through some of this stuff, but basically Calvert did everything okay as far as I can tell. They have the correct measurements for everything based off of what I got off of the old spring sitting over there. So everything appears to be good on their side. Jegs did not want to exchange these for whatever reason. Didn't give me any actual explanation. They wanted me to basically, I used a promo code to get these for less money, and then I want to do a straight exchange. They wouldn't honor my promo code, so they wanted me to pay more money to get the correct springs, and they would not honor the promo code. So that was super lame, and I just took the money back and I went to Calvert and I got the springs straight from them, which even with the promo code at Jegs was still more money than just buying it from Calvert. So do yourself a favor, just buy directly from Calvert. It's really quick. They know what they're doing. They're probably not gonna mess up stuff. And from what I've heard, they have really good customer service if you have any problems. So yeah, just do that. Since then, I got these all kind of like mocked in here. I got the front part done, and now it's all set up and ready to go to where I can actually put these on the rear shackles, and we can get these all bolted in. We can get the axle bolted up and the Calverts attached, all that good stuff. So that's what we're gonna do tonight. And after that, that's pretty much gonna be a wrap for this. There's a lot more stuff that I have to do, but I don't have a lot of time, especially this month. So I'm gonna wrap it up with this. We'll get it down onto the ground, and that'll be it. Got brother Randy over here. We just spent a little bit of time getting the leaf springs, the new ones in. I showed a little bit just beforehand kind of what was going on, and it's still pretty close to the front. It's a little dark, so you may not be able to tell. Let me get some extra light here really quick. Now at least it's like, you know, a couple inches. Yeah, stick your finger in there. There you go. Before I couldn't even really stick a finger in there. That's how bad it was. So at least now there's a little bit of room where it's not gonna rub or do anything stupid when it's actually on the road, bouncing around or whatever. It's still sitting really high. These are standard height springs, and even with these 28-inch tall tires, they're still like a good 3 or 4 inches above the tire. And I don't know. I'm not really sure. That could just be the suspension needing to settle and all that good stuff. So I'm not gonna look into that too much right now. I guess at this point, I'm gonna get done what I can throughout the next few weeks. There may be a small delay before getting the next video. I'm just gonna be really busy. I'm going out of town for a week, and you know, life happens. Regardless of what happens here, I think Ivan's gonna have the transmission done by November. What do you think, Randy? You think Ivan's actually gonna have it done? Yeah, there's not a lot of promise in that face.
Well, if he watches a video or something, he'll be like, "Oh, do it."
He's gonna get all motivated.
And then and then he'll forget again.
I guess we'll see. I'm still gonna do a small video on the sound system, I think, because that's gonna be pretty easy. I'm gonna do some wiring on the MSD box and that kind of thing. So I will have a separate video coming out in between this one and the next part of the road to roadworthiness. So if you like this video, please comment, leave a like, subscribe. Thanks guys, later.